Man, woo! This is like the never ending story, but it needs to be told. It needs to be echoed every day. It needs to be echoed every day. And some people might say, well, why is that? Why does it need to be echoed? And I want to say shouts out to everybody. If you didn't see the Marcus Jordan and Larsa Pippen video, they went all out their way, man. They were mad as hell at me after the Kyrie video I did last time with Tsai. They didn't even send that video out to anyone. So if you happen to go by and see it, thank you. I'm glad you did see it. They sent no notifications for it. It didn't even travel anywhere. So I'm sorry about that. So if you want to go on the timeline and check it out, it's right there. It's a very interesting video, so you'll learn a lot of information about it. But we're here to talk about Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics. He's also the vice president of the National Basketball Players Association. And he's the only one that seems to be doing his job because CJ ain't doing a damn thing in the position that he's in my opinion. And that's why he was chose. They put the house Negro in charge of the doggone players union. One house Negro passes it to the other house Negro. Chris Paul was so terrible at his job and what he was doing, he passed the mantle on to somebody else who's gonna be playing ball. And then the vice president comes in and takes care of the business. I feel like Al Pacino and Glenn Gary and Glenn Ross. Now, in case it's not clear to you, you are here to help us. That is your job. That is the union's job, is to help you, not to F you over. Now, Jaylen Brown comes out and makes an incredible decision to speak on this situation, even though he's a Boston Celtic player. And we're going to get into how deep this really goes. Okay, this is going to go even deeper than what anybody else is talking about because they pretty much don't know, right? So we're going to get into that. Now, let's listen first. Let's listen to Jaylen Brown, and then we're going to go from there.
Tsai's comment about Kyrie on Twitter. What about that bothered you? And what about Tsai's comment? And then what, if anything, that the league has done has bothered you?
Yeah, his response was alarming to me. I tweeted it out yesterday. He didn't say that the organization was working together to get Kyrie back on the floor. He said that he had more work to do. And our society has more work to do, including Tsai. And it's 2022. It takes 10 minutes of time to see who, these business owners, corporations, etc., who they're associated with, who they're doing business with, who they're affiliated with. And I'm vice president of the union, and it's part of my job to protect our players legally. And to see Phil Knight first come out and condemn, Kyrie, and also see Tsai say he has more work to do, I think it's time for a larger conversation. And Adam came out and said a statement that he doesn't believe Kyrie Irving is anti-Semitic, yet he's still suspended indefinitely. So those are my thoughts.
So, what do you think the reaction should be with him if that's not the way to do it? Like, what should be the response?
I said this before. I think it's uncharted territory. I think it's no distinction between what somebody says versus what somebody posts. And I guess that's what they're trying to figure out. The terms that the Brooklyn Nets instituted for his return. I voice my discomfort. Some of our players, some people in the media, voice some of their discomfort with that. And we've yet to hear what is the latest with that situation. it's still an indefinite suspension. He's already missed 5 or 6 games. So, how many games is he going to continue to miss? Is it another situation going on there? Is it a larger situation going on there? Is another conversation that need to be had? We've yet to find out. So I'm staying tuned, and I'm keeping my phone on to just see what is going to come of this situation.
Joe Tsai's comment.
So that is the vice president of the National Basketball Players Association on this Kyrie Irving situation. Now, listening to that should tell you firsthand there's a major problem in scale. There's a major problem in development. And when I tell you we finna get deeper into this, we're going to get deeper into it because it's a lot more than what people understand and unwrapped. Now, first of all, Joe Tsai. What the hell does he know about basketball? Joe Tsai is a businessman. He worked with Alibaba. I remember Alibaba used to have people out there working for them. Like you can get these people and hire them for cheap labor. Get everything cheap on Alibaba. You need something done cheap, go to Alibaba. Then they were financing, they found the discovery that they were financing and participating in an alleged genocide with Muslims in China. Joe Tsai basically never talks about this or it never gets brought up to him in any interview. Yet, he was still able to be an owner and purchase the Brooklyn Nets. Why? Because he has liquid cash and he has cash flow. Now, the Russians that bought the Brooklyn Nets wanted out. They saw this as a project that they wanted to build and renovate downtown. That not downtown, but that area where the Brooklyn, the actual location. They had other business there. Now that they've done and gentrified that area, they have more Russians living there in the places that they have bought and renovated. This was more of a real estate investment where mostly their people are moving in. If you look over there from before the Barclays and the Brooklyn Nets even existed and came over there, it was more people of color in that community. Now, because they drove the prices up so high in rent and just kept raising it and raising it, the people fought to block it, but to no avail. Now, if you look over there, they start renovating, building new stores. More Euro-based foods spots are there now. They were gentrifying that area and saying, well, you got to move from here down there. So a lot of the building owners and people who owned the building and the property were bought out. So Joe Tsai becomes the owner of the Brooklyn Nets. Now he owns a basketball team. Just as a tribute. The Brooklyn Nets went out and paid to get Kevin Durant. They took in Kyrie Irving. They looked like they were trying to win a championship and bring a championship to New York City. They hired Sean Marks, who basically had never been an NBA general manager before. Used to play for the Spurs, was an assistant coach, and was a GM to some of the minor teams in there. Was brought in as this is really his first major job as general manager. Sean Marks. And he hires, as his decision, his buddy, Steve Nash. Brings in Mike D'Antoni and Amari Stoudemire. Basically, the Phoenix Suns. All of his old friends. So we're going to get a guy who had never coached, who was nothing but a shooting coach, to be the head coach. Then we're going to hire his former head coach to coach him to coach the players. Then we're going to get his other teammate to be an assistant to help him coach the players that's out there on the field, on the court. So, very interesting decision, right? Now, what I'm doing is backtracking so you guys can get caught up full circle. Now, the decision happens when Kyrie gets injured, that it's James Harden and Kevin Durant in the playoffs. Kyrie gets hurt in the playoffs, and it's all on James Harden, who's not ready, who's basically got a hamstring injury and is not full strength, and Kevin Durant. So losing this series to the Milwaukee Bucks, Kevin Durant had to play every minute of a game, and they got the victory. Nash is, that's what you gotta do. You gotta go get it. I gotta play Kevin Durant every minute of the game. They got away with it in game 6, and in game 7, they almost got away with it again. But we all know Kevin Durant had a toe on the line, and that toe on the line basically, in my opinion, cost the Nets a championship, because that toe on the line put the game into overtime, and he had played every minute of the game. He was dead tired in overtime. He had nothing left. He had nothing left. Now, here's the problem. Most people don't understand what it's like to be in that pressure situation. True. But to see the way Nash handled everything that went down was not suffice. Then last year, they lose the only coach they identified with defensively, Ime Udoka. Ime Udoka was the assistant coach that came over from the Spurs. Sean Marks knew him from his time with the Spurs organization and what he did with Team USA, and the fact that this guy can really coach. He knows what he's doing. And the way the players react to him, being a former player, they respect Ime Udoka. And he's knowledgeable about the game. So him having Draymond and Kevin Durant, when you can get Draymond to listen to you basically pull. You got a lot of pull. And Kevin Durant hated to see him go, but he was glad to see him get the opportunity to be the head coach. So now, last season happens. They end up playing Boston in the first round. Boston hits the last second shot to win the game, the first game, and from that point, it was over. Kevin Durant played the worst he's ever played in history because they had devised a system to stop Kevin Durant. They start sending double teams in different variations where Kevin Durant wouldn't see it coming before he makes his decision and gets into a rhythm. They knock him off rhythm by sending a double at the last second, and he don't know where the double's going to come from. They were doing it from different angles. Different people would come over. Boston knew, but Brooklyn didn't. This is how Brooklyn was able to beat Boston the previous year because they knew all of their plays. And Ime Udoka would watch, the plays the Celtics were running. And the Celtics knew this is the guy we need to get. Brad Stevens knew this guy's a better coach than me. Ime Udoka's a better coach. I run the plays I run, but he's able to memorize my plays, know what we're going to run, and know how to defend it, and get his players to follow. He's a better coach. We got to get him now. First year, they go to the NBA Finals. They go 6 games with the Golden State Warriors, a series they should have won, but it was blown. Ime Udoka's the greatest thing since sliced bread. The Nets get swept, and everyone thinks Nash should be fired. They wonder why we didn't see players like Blake Griffin. We didn't see another player that we brought. We had just got another mid-range jump shooter. God, he used to play with Portland. Wow, I can't think of this dude's name now. How could I forget his name? How can I not remember this guy's name? Lamar Aldridge. Aldridge, that's his name, Aldridge. Okay, there we go, Aldridge. Now, here's the deal. Aldridge was what you would call a unique, interesting character because LaMarcus Aldridge was the mid-range jump shooter they needed, and for some reason he wasn't getting played, and Blake Griffin wasn't getting played, and I didn't understand what was happening. Defensively, they was absolutely terrible, and the Nets got swept. Ben Simmons, they did all that. They traded James Harden basically away for a run-of-the-mill player. And this guy still, just waste. You basically made the 76ers a better team. Gave away James Harden after Kevin Durant told y'all don't do it. Y'all did it. And you got Ben Simmons, a guy you got to motivate to play. So you're going into this season with a coach that everybody thinks should be fired, but you're going back into the next season with the same nothing's been fixed. There's been no off-season acquisition that made people believe that they were serious. Patty Mills was picked up after Kevin Durant saw what he was doing at Team USA, and they played against Patty Mills. A deal was made during the Team USA to pick up Patty Mills the year prior. So Patty Mills became a free agent, and then they re-signed Patty Mills back to the team. That was basically the only acquisition that they made of any significance. They have no real big man. Claxton is playing more, but they have no real big enforcer on the inside to help out. The bench is weak. And they have major implications of serious problems for the organization moving forward. Kevin Durant, after thinking Kyrie Irving's deal is going to get done, it does not. They came up with, guess what? Stipulations in the contract for Kyrie to meet. So he's basically getting an incentive-based contract that if he gets hurt, they don't basically have to pay Kyrie Irving. Like, who in the hell would sign something like that? Never in the history of the game does someone have a contract that says basically you have to play this many games. So if he gets hurt playing the game for your team, he doesn't get paid? Who in the hell would sign something like that? Even his agent, Kyrie's agent, said, this is ridiculous. Who would offer somebody something like this? So, of course, they weren't going to sign. And so this was going to be Kyrie Irving's final year. He already knows the position of the Brooklyn Nets. So he's going to play his final year, and then that's that. Kevin Durant said, okay, we're altering away from what our goal was supposed to be. You could trade me. So now Kevin Durant wants to be traded. He meets with Tsai and does not talk to Sean Marks at all. Sean Marks has been totally not talking to, not spoken to the whole time. So Tsai meets with him. That's who he talks to, Joe. He's like, Joe, I spoke to you. You made me the promise. You promised me this is what we were doing. You made these promises. So, look, trade me or get rid of Sean Marks and Nash. I'll stay if you get rid of them too. But no. This thing it's got to go. So, they ensured, like, look, changes will be made if it isn't right. But they can't. He wanted to go to Phoenix. They couldn't get that deal done. And then once Aiden signed that deal and they had to match it, that changed the spectrum of what they could do, because now his contract, he can't be traded for over a year. He didn't want the Phoenix Suns to match it, but he wasn't going to sit around and play this Kevin Durant game. Then came Tsai was like, I stand by my coaching staff. Went public. Standing by the coaching staff. Then, shortly after, all the rumors were hitting the fans. on where Kevin Durant is going. And one of the main rumors that came out, and it was leaked to the press, and everywhere was running with it, is that Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics would be traded for Kevin Durant, and how close this deal was going. And the only thing was holding the deal up was Marcus Smart. And that was in the media. That's what all the sports writer was talking about. And Jaylen Brown had a real problem with that situation. Now, he went to meet when Kevin Durant and everything got worked out, and that Jaylen Brown came to meet with the Boston ownership, the group. They had a conversation that he's going to keep behind closed doors. But from what I heard, they apologized to him for all the distraction and the noise, and that it's all it was noise. They weren't going to trade him, and for Kevin Durant and all of these things, it's like this was just the attention for the media to keep the Celtics name in the press, keep people talking about the Boston Celtics. But there was never going to be any serious conversations about you going anywhere, right? This is what they're telling him. They're selling him on this. And he cussed them out. So now that this was done, and he is a Boston Celtics, and now they love him. Ime Udoka situation happens. And everybody's upset. I mean it. Everybody's upset about it. So now that everybody's upset, about the Ime Udoka situation and how the Celtics handled that. Now, season takes off, and Nash gets fired. People blame Kevin Durant, not Kyrie Irving. Some people tried to say Kyrie Irving didn't like Nash and this and that. He never made one statement once Nash was fired. This was Sean Mark's buddy. The team wasn't winning. They were blowing big leads in the game. They'll be up 20 and end up losing the game by 10. And they survived the last game they won with him as coach. They were up big, about 20. And again, they barely won. So it was happening again. And guys lack a commitment to get the job done. A lot of people don't think it was Nash's fault, but it was like he lost the locker room. Guys weren't thinking about him anymore. He was not somebody that they were, privy to be, around anymore. They just was tuning him out. So he lost the locker room. He talked to Sean Marks about the players he didn't like or what he thought Marks is upset. Next thing you know, they found a tweet or someone finds this Kyrie Irving post that he made and that he sent the link to, and it wasn't like the last thing he did. Somebody saw it, decided to make a big deal out of it. And before it was even anywhere, before it did anything, before they even had a conversation with Kyrie Irving, Tsai, not Sean Marks, put out a statement basically condemning Kyrie Irving. A public Twitter statement so that all of this could get attention. To Kevin Durant, this is strange. Because everybody talk about teams handling things in-house. This is what Joe Dumars was brought in for. Like, players need to handle things. These teams, we got to go back to teams handling their own business. And sure enough, first thing they have is Ime Udoka situation. Team handled their business. Everything normally was in-house. And when they went public, suspending the coach, this is what the talk was. Now it was like, oh, they bringing Ime Udoka back. That was going everywhere. And Sean Marks is still pissed he had to fire Steve Nash, his buddy. Now, he's trying to tarnish Kyrie Irving. And they selling these BS tickets. Oh, Kyrie Irving was blowing off plays that they were sending in. Nash would send plays in, and Kyrie would just keep blowing them off. Coaches sends in plays, and it doesn't mean that the players have to run the play that the coach sends in. The coaches see something and would call a play. You might have ran that play already, and it didn't work. Or you probably say, well, with this personnel we got, that play ain't gonna work. Or we tried that. So it's like a pitcher and a catcher. The catcher send the code or whatever he see to the pitcher, and the pitcher shake it off. No, and choose the pitch he agrees with in the situation. That's the same thing in basketball. A coach will send a play in, or an assistant coach, they'll send a play in. And he'll say the person will run the play, or they see something different and they choose to do something different that they think would work in that situation. Who's to say how many times he got blown off of plays? LeBron James, it came out, was blowing off Darvin Ham plays. Oh, no one says anything about that. So it's all about who you like and how you like. But what's weird is Joe Tsai's decisions. Here's a man that doesn't know anything about basketball, hires Sean Marks to really help him in this situation, anything basketball related. Now, the general manager is not doing any of the talking, but the owner's doing all the talking. This is what Jaylen Brown is saying. This is confusing to me. We need to have a larger conversation. Then Phil Knight. We're going to talk about Phil at another time, because I'm getting all the details on Phil Knight that we need to bring up. Now, here's a man that Joe Tsai himself saying, me and my wife sat down with Kyrie Irving. We don't think he's anti-Semitic. So if you don't believe he's anti-Semitic, why does he have to do sensitivity training? Why does he got to sit down with a rabbi for? Why does he got to go meet with the ADL? Why does he got to do all these things if you don't believe he's anti Semitic? All because of a tweet. We want him to condemn the movie. Why? Did you get Jeff Bezos to condemn the movie? Who's selling it? Go get him to condemn it. Where is the ADL and the JDL going at Amazon? Where's y'all boycott of Amazon? I don't see that. You want to go after Kyrie Irving, who's not the executive producer, who was not there to film it. He's not on the commentary. He didn't do anything. You guys gave it, so far, we're up to about $37 million in marketing for a documentary that costs probably less than $100,000 to make. You've made it bigger than life. So congratulations on that. And this is why I say we come full circle. Because Sean Marks is pulling the strings. And Tsai is the puppet. Tsai is out here going by what Sean Marks is saying. Because Sean Marks is the guy that should have been fired, right along with Steve Nash. His inept ability, he brought in Ben Simmons for nothing. You got nothing for James Harden. And let James Harden go. And you got Ben Simmons. That right there, James Harden for Ben Simmons, trade right there, should have been the reason that you're out of the job. Right there. That trade alone should put you in the unemployment line. You're trading for a player who's mentally out of it. Every scouting report would tell you that this guy is a distraction. This guy don't want to shoot. It's something mental in his head that he can't get around. And you guys are paying him hundreds of millions of dollars to go see a mental health specialist and treat his back. That's where we are. Now, this suspension situation, how are you going to make a 5-game suspension for a player who you now, the NBA commissioner and the owner, both said we met with him, we don't feel he's anti-Semitic. So why is he still suspended? Why is he still indefinitely off of the team unless you guys are just keeping him off because you want to try to trade him anyway? And that's cool if that's what you're going to do. But now you're docking him pay and keeping him from being paid and trying to hold this over a head. So you guys need to define the punishment. Like, you guys are making rules that is going to ruin this team moving forward. Because as I told you, I am not doing that. Oh, I'm boycotting. For people who think, they was like, what about Nike? Oh, I'm boycotting Nike. ASAP. I never was a big Nike guy anyway. So, yeah, they're out of here. If they didn't make the jerseys, I wouldn't have them. But I don't advertise them at all. You got to understand, I didn't buy Jordans. Only pair of Jordans I bought, I was buying them for my brother. So that was it. Nope. There's a lot of different situations. No, I mean, if you look at it for what it is, you're surrounded by a lot of people who are looking at the situation with different eyes, and they're seeing something that's making them very uncomfortable. Because I'm uncomfortable with the situation being the way it is. Jaylen Brown sees it because this is a guy who wanted to trade for him, Sean Marks, and bring him over and trade Kevin Durant to the Boston Celtics to bring him over there. And he doesn't like this whole thing on period. So he didn't want to go over there to Brooklyn and this situation. And now this really shows him players are not going to want to play for Joe Tsai. They're not going to want to come over there unless they're just doing it for the money. They're not going to want to play for Joe, and they're not going to want to play for Sean Marks. This is going to echo very large. They're playing to go after a man who wasn't doing anything wrong. He made a tweet, and that was that. And they tried to put a label on him because that's what they do. Listen, did you listen to what he said and how he said it? It was key. Everything he said was very key. Listen,
About Kyrie on Twitter. What about that bothered you? And what about Joe Tsai's comment? And then what, if anything, that the league has done has bothered you?
Yeah, his response was alarming to me. I tweeted it out yesterday. He didn't say that the organization was working together to get Kyrie back on the floor. He said that he had more work to do. And our society has more work to do, including Joe Tsai. And it's 2022. It takes 10 minutes of time to see who, these business owners, corporations, etc., who they're associated with, who they're doing business with, who they're affiliated with. And I'm vice president of the union, and it's part of my job to protect our players legally. And to see Phil Knight first come out and condemn, Kyrie, and also see Joe Tsai say he has more work to do, I think it's time for a larger conversation. And Adam came out and said a statement that he doesn't believe Kyrie Irving is anti-Semitic, yet he's still suspended indefinitely. So those are my thoughts.
and when you hear him say that, it takes 10 minutes to look up who these business owners, corporations are associated with doing business and who they are affiliated with. You see? Joe Tsai, Alibaba, China, Nike, China. Whole different thing. Didn't I tell you this thing's coming full circle? Why do you think Phil Knight was so quick to make that decision? Oh, we're gonna go into that when we do the whole thing on Phil. Phil deserves his own video. So Phil will get that. I just want everybody to make sure that y'all subscribe here so y'all don't miss any of the party. If you on the Patreon last night, you found out what happened with Whitney Houston, why she died, everything, and what happened. And people don't even remember. They don't even know. They know now. So now that's on there. We did that yesterday. We told y'all about Kim Porter. You found out the truth about the Michael Jordan family secret that they've been hiding from the world. It's all out here, man. All the information is there. All you got to do is go get it. Go get the Patreon app and go to Casino for Life, and it's up. Now, here's the problem. Mm. I'm gonna address a lot of these things that's happening behind closed doors. We just did that with the Lakers on the Patreon. We're gonna do something even more. What's going on right now? Because other teams do things just to f up other teams. I'm gonna tell you that right now. And nobody does it better than another team that we're gonna talk about later. So we got a big day today. So I hope y'all ready. Strap in. It's gonna be a long day.